This is Luke Willson. It's our weekly edition of Luke Who's Talking. Luke, you heard Micah Parsons say, hey, he thinks it's going to be all applause from the Dallas fans as he returns to Jerry World. But Jerry Jones himself, listen, we've seen lesser players than Micah Parsons get big tribute videos and standing ovations and all sorts of nice tributes from their former teams. But Jerry Jones said, and I quote, "I don't think that's appropriate this week." And we know Jerry's stubborn, but is it kind of refreshing to hear an owner who's just plain bitter make a hardline stance like that?
It is, Jay. It is, because he's correct. I don't often find myself agreeing with Jerry Jones, but I got to keep it real, Jay. You know me. He's correct here. Micah wanted out. He does not have a crazy, 11-year illustrious time span in Dallas. It's very, very fresh. I think that a lot of the guys on the Cowboys, especially, you go back to Micah laying on the table during preseason, not going through camp. If Jerry were to give Micah a tribute, one, it would make Jerry look bad, which we all know he's not going to do. But two, I don't think the guys would love it. I am sure that there will come a day where Micah will get his tribute there, but that day is not this weekend.
And then Micah Parsons also said something that I thought was intriguing. He said it's going to be painful to sack his mentor, Dak Prescott, this Sunday night. Do you believe him?
Absolutely not. I mean, there's a dichotomy here, Jay. I think it'll be painful because I'm sure they have a great relationship. The best player on their defense, their quarterback, arguably the best player on offense, certainly highest paid in Dak. That's a relationship that's pretty special when you're trying to, take a team that goes to the playoffs. And although they've struggled, Micah and Dak have played in playoff games together, have been through seasons together. They're going to have that bond. So I'm sure to a degree there is that kind of side of it for, Micah Parsons. But in the same breath, don't think for 1 minute that this isn't a situation where if Micah does get Dak down, when they see each other in the offseason, when they hang out next time, he won't have a little bragging rights to bring that up.
I love it. Jaxson Dart is now the starting quarterback for the New York Giants after Russell Wilson was sent to the bench after last week's loss. I know you felt like this change was necessary, Luke, but Jimmy Harbaugh and the 3-0 Chargers are coming to town, and this seems like a tough spot for the rookie, especially when there's another veteran quarterback signed to the team.
Jay, and this is where it gets a bit confusing for me. So I'll start with how tough of a position Jaxson Dart is in. And to me, if you're Brian Daboll, you evaluate how mentally strong Jaxson Dart is. And not just in the media, but, in the meetings behind closed doors. I always go, when it comes to rookie quarterbacks, back to Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning threw 28 interceptions in his NFL rookie campaign. That's in 16 games. It didn't crush Peyton Manning, Jay. Peyton had a pretty good career after that. So if he can handle that there will be some failures, then I say get him in there. Yes, take your licks, etc. The weird part, and you mentioned the other veteran guy, and that's Jameis Winston, obviously. Brian Daboll, to me, has got to be on the hottest of the hot seats in the NFL. I don't see how there's that much, runway left on his tenure if they don't win. So this is where it gets confusing to me, where I have a hard time believing that they're going to win no matter who they put in there. But you would think at this point, Jameis gives you a better opportunity to pull off an upset than a rookie Jaxson Dart. So that is where it does not add up in my head. Why have we all forgotten about Jameis Winston? Yes, he has some turnover issues, but he's won a lot of ball games in this league. I don't get why he's just passed over here if Brian Daboll's on the hot seat.
I don't get why they even sign him if they're not going to put him in this position. I totally agree with you. Possibly the biggest game of Week 4, Chiefs hosting the Ravens. I've said it on this show all week, Luke. At one point at the end of Week 4, one of these teams expected to be Super Bowl contenders is going to be 1-3 on the season. It's pretty wild to think about that. So in your mind, who needs the victory more?
Chiefs, Jay. So here's my reasoning. Okay, you look at Baltimore right now, and it's very strange saying this, but the AFC North is not what it once was. So if they drop to 1-3, you look at the teams in their division if they still want to win the division. Okay, the Bengals don't have Joe Burrow. That is a huge ordeal. You know, the Browns, although they did beat the Packers last week, they have a very, very putrid offense at this point. You look at the Steelers, you know I love Aaron. You know I love Aaron as a player. Okay, but I don't know if the Steelers are going to run the table here and win 13 games. So if Baltimore loses this game, it sucks. It puts them in a tougher spot, but all hope for the division is not lost. On the flip side, you just mentioned, we just talked about it, the Chargers are playing the Giants. We all expect them to go to 4-0. The Chiefs got to keep up with the Chargers, whom they've already lost a game to. At this point in the season, if they lose to the Ravens and they end up 3 games back after 4, one of those having be against the Chargers, that is going to be a very, very tough situation for them to overcome the Chargers. They're going to need the Chargers to slip up a few times. The Chiefs are going to have to be nearly perfect, including beating the Chargers again. I'm not saying they can't do it, but they're going to need some help. So again, to me, this is a much bigger game for the Kansas City Chiefs.
We're going to end this edition of Luke Who's Talking on a fun note. And what we're first going to do is listen to a clip from Josh Allen's media conference earlier Wednesday. Luke, take a listen to this.
On top of that, I may be the biggest wing connoisseur in this building, so it works out. I mean, like, favorite spot? I mean, I think everybody knows that Barbell is probably my favorite. I think Mulberry's has some sneaky good wings. And then obviously Wing Nuts is pretty dang good too. So there's a lot of good options, but any chance that you can go and try some new wings here, you should probably jump at the chance to do it.
All right, so the anchor bar does not make the cut for Josh Allen. We now know Josh Allen's favorite wing spots in Buffalo. Luke, we wanted to ask you, can you tell us your favorite coffee shops in the capital of coffee culture, Seattle, Washington, where you played for the Seattle Seahawks?
I definitely can. And Jay, it was a little Italian spot. They had two situations. I thought the one in Capitol Hill was better. It's called Vivace. Okay, Vivace. I don't know if it was an espresso bar or what the situation was. That was number one for me. Kind of, you went in there, you know, Jay, and it's almost uncomfortable. If you're not like a huge coffee snob, which I would say I'm not, you're like, man, I don't want to butcher this order. You know, I don't want to say the wrong thing. So I like that, though. You know, you got to step your game up. And then the other place, and it was kind of a hole in the wall right by where I stayed downtown. I believe it was called Monorail Espresso. Pretty staple, classic for the Seattle area. So that would be my 1-2. The thing that is funny, if I can continue on this coffee rant of Seattle, is obviously it's the birthplace of Starbucks. But when you're there, you need to do everything you can to avoid Starbucks. And that's not a shot against Starbucks. I like Starbucks. I got no problem with it. But it's a when in Rome situation. You don't go to a Starbucks when you have all these local options. So I would go Vivace first and Monorail Espresso second.
I got to say, you really stepped up for that question. That was really, you are a coffee connoisseur.
Yeah, that's right in my wheelhouse. You know this, Jay. I drink a lot of Spros. I had one at 7 p.m. I had one at 7 p.m. tonight.